Hello, I'm Joel Margolis, your host, and my guest today is Scott Nance, who is a member of the Ombudsman program at Access Living. Scott, we're going to be talking about your program today, but could you start by telling us something about your own professional and occupational background?
Well, sure. Thanks for having me, Joel. I come from a background of service to others, something greater than myself, from my grandparents to my parents. I was a veteran in the United States Army. I've worked in food service and retail, in educational settings, and here recently I've been involved with Access Living, first as a housing locator for people coming out of nursing facilities and at imminent risk of homelessness, then a community supports coordinator, supplying assistive technology to individuals living in the city through a program through the mayor's office for people with disabilities. And now I have this exciting opportunity to serve as a resource and training specialist in a new home and community ombudsman program that works for people with disabilities living in the city of Chicago and living in their own home, as well as a new range of potential participants who I have not had that much experience with, and that is seniors 60 and over, again living in the city of Chicago. And the seniors that we're working with now do not have to have a disability, so they may or may not have a disability.
I'd like you to tell us a little bit about the program in a general sense.
The intent of the program from the state's perspective has been to ensure to have a set of checks and balances for managed care organizations providing quality of service, and to ensure that that quality of service is realized. But that is not the only scope of what this program can do.
Now, you mentioned the eligibility requirements for this program. You've already referred to the fact that it is for the disabled and for seniors over the age of 65. Are all disabled individuals eligible for service from this program?
Well, and let me just make sure that folks understand correctly. And this is Access Living's typical experience is working for people with disabilities, working with people with disabilities aged 18 to 59. We've had some experience working with younger folks in some of our youth and peer mentoring programs and youth mentoring programs as young as 13. But primarily our experience has been 18 to 59. This Ombudsman program allows us to increase the number of the population and the number of people that we get to work with to include seniors 60 and over, with or without a disability. The key is they have to be living in the city of Chicago and they have to be living in their own home. Now, for those that fall outside that particular criteria, there are still ombudsman supports, and they can still call the hotline to receive information and referrals for who to call to get that appropriate support. But for people living in the city of Chicago and living in their own homes, and there's additional criteria as well that we can get into here in a second. But those are two of the big components, and they can call that hotline number.
Do you mean that someone who wants to take advantage of these services must be living in a single-family home that they own, or is this open to disabled individuals and seniors over 60 living in a rental apartment?
Oh, Joel, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yes, absolutely. This can include renters, as well as folks who are renting and happen to be living in a condo or are owning their own condo and dealing with a condo association, things of this matter, as well as owning their own home. Absolutely. And so part of what this Ombudsman program does, I had mentioned resolving conflicts and problems with their managed care provider, but this also includes conflict with, say, a landlord who may be discriminatory and is saying, no, I'm not going to assist you with a reasonable accommodation request. I'm going to deny that to you, or I'm going to deny your access with a housing choice voucher or subsidized assistance that a person is receiving. And so with these levels of discrimination, if a person is facing those and they feel like they need assistance or that they want assistance, they can contact that hotline. And just to to understand a little bit more, I think people get confused about what ombudsman means in the first place.
It's a Swedish term, isn't it?
It is. It is a Swedish term, and it translates into English as a citizen representative. I like to think of it more of as a personal advocate, which again is something that Access Living has been doing for over 30 years anyway, as a personal one-on-one advocate. But now we have badges. now we have state endorsement to be able to execute these particular exercises that in some cases may have been in futility for certain individuals, but now we can exercise and really get results.
Now, can a disabled individual or senior over the age of 60 living in the city of Chicago who is specifically having problems with the link card service call the Ombudsman hotline and expect to receive help in dealing with the Illinois Department of Human Services on the link card issue?
Absolutely. If they are a person, if they meet the full eligibility criterion. So you had mentioned seniors 60 and over living in their own home and living in the city of Chicago. I want to expand that to include people in the home service program, people with disabilities aged 18 to 59 using the home service program. And the specific waivers, though, there are specific waivers, silos that people fall into, and that would, for this program, it would include people who are people with physical disabilities.
All right.
And people who have a brain injury and are part of that waiver program, as well as people living with HIV or AIDS. Those are the three waiver programs that make a participant in the Ombudsman program eligible to receive advocacy one-on-one and to open up what we call a complaint.
Now, what about the following situation? It's certainly not unknown in American life that someone complains that they're dealing with an agency of the federal government and they're not getting anywhere, okay? That's hardly a new complaint. However, the federal government has now appointed individuals who are called ombudsmen, who work for the federal government, and who are supposed to help citizens who are having difficulty in dealing with a federal government agency. If someone is having difficulty dealing with, for instance, with HUD or dealing with the Department of Human Services, and they call you at the Ombudsman's program of Access Living, are you in the situation of then having to say to them, sorry, can't help you, you have to go to the federal government ombudsman?
Again, if they fit into the eligible criteria of being a person with a disability, using Department of Human Services, Division of Rehabilitation Services, they are part of the physical disability waiver, part of the brain injury waiver, and or part of the HIV/AIDS waiver. Or if they're a senior, 60
All
and over.
seniors 60 or over, living in the city of Chicago and in their own dwelling.
You got it. And so if they fall within that eligibility criteria, they can certainly call our hotline. And in Access Living, we know just exactly what you're talking about with the link card and working with public aid, working with a local Division of Rehabilitation Service office, working with their private managed care case manager, that when the voicemails pile up and aren't returned, that when you get a letter that is confusing, that when you are receiving what may be interpreted as a threat to a person's quality of life because now services are being cut, whether that's the link card or whether those are personal attendant hours, that there may be an appeals process. And who really knows how to navigate without some level of assistance, without someone at their side, these appeals processes, how to escalate appropriately and ask for a supervisor, jot down notes, take a person's name down, so that the person is able to more effectively advocate for themselves. And I think that leads to the very next part, and that is, again, in line with Access Living's philosophy, we are an independent living center. We are not a dependent living center. So by that I mean, even with this Ombudsman program, we'll do it with you if you choose to have us there at your side, but we will not do it for you. We will never do it for you. And that, I think, is something that some people may be confused by, that here's something that is going to help me and they're going to do it for me. No.
You will do it with the person who needs the service, not do it in place of them.
Correct.
Important distinction. We've been talking so far about services from public sector agencies. I'd like to talk for a moment about the private sector. Many disabled individuals and thousands of seniors have had difficulty with credit card companies and with lenders. And in the last financial meltdown in 2008 and afterwards, it was exposed in multiple parts of the press that there were more than one or two credit card companies and lenders engaged in predatory practices. Okay? Now, if someone who is eligible for Ombudsman program gets something such as a credit card bill in which the interest rate on their card, which they had been told is fixed, has suddenly been jacked up from 11 to 15%, and they call you, are you going to have to say to them, sorry, we can't do anything for you? Or can you help them there too?
We would be able to work with them, we would be able to help them out, but not as an open complaint. In that kind of a situation, we would certainly not leave them high and dry, but we would give them a referral to the appropriate agency that would be able to best serve them. So in some instances, that may be an abuse hotline, because with what you're describing, that's financial abuse. And that is just as qualitative as physical abuse, sexual abuse,
Poor service
abuse.
from a personal attendant, etc.
Poor service from an attendant does fall in more in line with what we do.
I understand.
So for these credit reports, for example, or these other kind of abuses, that yes, we would probably give them information and referral. But if it is with a provider, and here it gets a little tricky, and where we need to fish for more information, is the provider being abusive, or is the provider simply not doing what the employer, the person with a disability, is expecting and asking?
And that's something that has to be investigated in each case?
That is correct. And so if there's a level of abuse, we would encourage, and we wouldn't do it we're not mandated reporters, but we would encourage the person with a disability, or at least provide them with the resources to call an abuse hotline and seek support. And then also at Access Living, we have personal attendant referrals available. We have trainings for personal attendants and a registry of people who have been professionally trained. Generically speaking, they still require the training from the actual individual to do how they want to have things done for them in their own home, and that's also part of what's reinforced. But yeah.
Now, what about the following? More than a few disabled individuals and literally hundreds of seniors receive some kind of home-delivered meal service, such as Meals on Wheels. And not every Meals on Wheels service works perfectly, as I'm sure you already know. If somebody is having a problem, such as not simply a delivery that was missed once, but their Meals on Wheels provider failed to show up 3 out of 5 weeks, and this leaves the disabled person and the senior in very difficult circumstances. If they call you, can you do anything for them in dealing with that service provider?
The answer to that question is, again, if they are eligible, they fit the criteria.
Of the type of disabled person they are?
If they fall within a certain waiver program, if they're a senior 60 and over, they're living in the city of Chicago, and they're living in their own home, the answer to that question is yes. And I'm glad that you asked that too, because the Ombudsman program doesn't just work with individuals. Part of the design of this is to look at the systematic delivery of service or lack thereof. So if there is a repetition of a breakdown, if there is, and not just in missed deliveries, but perhaps food sensitivities. Well, I'm vegan. I can only receive non-meat and non-dairy products, and they are consistently given steak and eggs. That's an issue. And so if there is a breakdown in the quality of service, whether it's home delivered meals, whether it's the private managed care, whether it's the vision and rehabilitation services, across the board, if there is a consistent breakdown, then we have policy individuals as part of our team who can then go and say, this policy needs to be enforced, or this policy needs to be eliminated, or this policy needs to be created to meet the needs and the wants of the individuals who are supposed to be receiving a certain quality of service and aren't.
For many disabled people and many seniors, having steady, reliable, and good telephone service is a vital link to the outer world. If someone is having difficulty, not necessarily with Comcast, it could be with another telephone service provider, and they're simply not getting the repairs they need, can they call the Ombudsman line in that situation?
I think that if it is a matter of discrimination, and if there's a way for the individual to determine that this is enacted discrimination, that this is something that is happening to me because I am a person with a disability, or perhaps there is a lack of a reasonable accommodation being honored, that absolutely they could call us.
Scott, I'd like to thank you for coming in today, being a guest of Chicago Adapt Productions, and for not only your knowledge, but for answering my endless questions as patiently as you did. I, for one, am thrilled to hear about the service that you're offering. For the benefit of our viewers today, could you tell them exactly how to contact the Ombudsman's office?
Absolutely. Thank you, Joel. The hotline is open Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. until 5 p.m. and they may reach us anytime at their convenience. 312-640-2152. That line goes directly to Access Living, and we have personnel that are dedicated Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5, to answer those calls. Again, that phone number is 312-640-2152. We have video phone for those who need access for translating services, as well as availability through email.
And your email address?
Is Ombudsman.
Could you spell that, please?
Absolutely. It's O-M as in Mike, B as in Bravo, U, D as in Delta, S-M-A-N. O-M-B-U-D-S-M-A-N at accessliving, all one word, .org, O-R-G.
That's Ombudsman at accessliving.org. Thank you very much. It was great to have you with us today. Thank you again for coming. And thank you for all of us who were watching today, for tuning in to Chicago Adapt Productions. I'm Joel Margolis, your host. Scott Nance was our guest for today. And please come back and visit us again. And have a pleasant day. Thank you.